Logan Paul, like, they are definitely athletic. Like, you can't sleep on that. Like, as much as, like, you think of them as YouTubers and they doing the comedy and the joking around,
Yeah.
but they two athletic dudes.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the podcast. I know we missed a week. We did a collab with Hollister's Friends, and that should be coming out very shortly. We have a special guest today, Mustafa, my youngest brother. He is part of the Sports Talk with the Fan, but this is his first time actually being on the podcast. So glad to have you. You know what I'm saying? So, yes. So before we get started, y'all already know the crew: Hollister, Menelik, and Tyrone. And now we have Mustafa. So yeah. But before we get started, man, we're gonna talk about a few things. But I wanted to just address a couple of things. Last night was UFC. I forgot the number, but it was UFC like maybe like I don't want to say the fight night, but one of those UFC cards. And it was Forrest Whitaker, Robert Whitaker versus Kelvin Gastelum. That was a great fight. Robert put on a clinic on your boy, and he really put on the work. And I was watching it, and I also had the other fight queued up, the Ben Askren versus Jake Paul fight, and I want to talk about that fight mainly. We already know Robert did his thing. He's should basically what he did, put himself in position to fight Israel Adesanya again, and who knows how that fight's going to turn out. I think it's going to be a good fight, especially after Izzy taking that L to Jan. But the Jake Paul versus Ben Askren fight, as you guys know in my facial expressions, that it wasn't a good night for MMA, and it wasn't a good night for Ben Askren. I was really hoping that Ben would have went in there and beat Jake Paul. Like, I'm not hating the guy, you know what I'm saying? He works hard, he trains. I just don't like him. I don't like the whole thing him and his brother be doing. I don't really know them like that. And the fact that he fought like some guys that weren't really like boxers. Even Ben Askren's not really known for his boxing. He didn't really care for striking. He only cared about wrestling. But the way he KO'd him yesterday, son, it was embarrassing. Because you got to look at it from this perspective. I'm going to let you guys get in there. I'm going to start with Mustafa, then I'll go Hollister, Menelik, and Tyrone. Ben Askren is an Olympic wrestler, gold medalist, okay? The man was a ONE FC world champion, and he was a Bellator world champion. The only championship that eluded him was a UFC championship. Now, granted, he fought a lot of killers and some guys who could strike, and they hitting him with nice hands, 4-ounce gloves, and he was able to withstand that. He was criticized for the Jorge Masvidal Tiger knee, but after getting KO like that yesterday by Jake Paul, we talking about a YouTube sensation. Jake Paul, son, KO'd him, son. It's like you just took all your accolades and they went out the window. And to me, it just took a huge blow to MMA. Like, we all know we're better than that. We know about the sport. We watch it, so it's a little bit different. But the casuals who don't, they think Jake Paul's like freaking Goku at this point, son. Like a One Punch Man or something like that. And it is ridiculous. So, Mustafa, I know we talked about that earlier. I want to get your opinion on that. Then we'll go to Hollister, Menelik, and Tyrone.
Yeah, so like with Jake Paul and Logan Paul, like, they are definitely athletic. Like, you can't sleep on that. Like, as much as you think of them as YouTubers and they doing the comedy and the joking around, but they two athletic dudes. They both big, and it's like you got to punch a chance. We was talking about that before. Like, anybody could get, if they get a good hit on you, it's like you could get knocked out. And the thing is, to some degree, I'm gonna say that some of these guys, they going and they taking these fights with guys like Jake Paul and stuff, and they not putting enough respect on the sport of boxing. It's a whole different game. Like, you may be like the greatest, MMA guy of all time, but at the same, like, if you go into to a boxing match and you don't have any experience, it's a different game. Like, you ain't equipped for that, so you can't just jump into that and try to start fighting and and think you're gonna knock somebody out just because he's a YouTuber. Like, so, I mean, I'm sure that they took it seriously and trained like Nate Robinson and this guy. I'm sure they put a lot of respect on it and they was trying, but you got to put more respect. Like, you can't just go in there and think you're gonna knock somebody out, or just because you have some sort of other skills. Like, it's a different skill set. But yeah, that's pretty much my take.
Yeah, I watched the fight. Ben Askren, he got 3 hits on Jake Paul. 3. The fight was only 2 minutes. I looked at this guy's resume. I'm like, all right, it's a disappointment. Like you had your MMA career, like looking at his record, nice record. You lose to Jake Paul in 2 minutes. I get it in a sense. I feel like MMA fighters should not go to the boxing thing no more because it hasn't worked for them since they've been doing it. The Conor McGregor against Floyd Mayweather. Now this Ben Askren against Jake Paul. You making Dana White look bad. Now Dana White got to pay this guy. He kept talking about it yesterday. Oh, I want my $1 million. I want my $1 million. But I also feel like the fight was a work in a sense because the referee he counted. Then he told Jake Paul go to the corner. The next, he just waved off the whole fight. It's like that was kind of fishy.
Yeah.
And then watching Jake Paul celebrate, you would have thought I was watching WrestleMania or something like that. He had the fireworks.
Yeah, he had the power. Like, I'm like, that's like we Transformers, bro. Like, what we watching, bro?
Screaming, like he turning Super Saiyan. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? But hey, Jake Paul, he gained his money for the fight. I ain't mad at him for getting that though. But and he had all these cameras and he doing push-ups and he clapping the back of his hands like, come on, man, you doing all this for more followers. I guess it's working for him, but I ain't knocking him. But hey, I want to see him go to the UFC and see. And if he does that and he wins it, then he might get a little. I might give him some credit, but I know that won't happen.
He can wrestle, but he not that elite. But go ahead. Who's next?
He's
Malik
doing
or
his
Tom?
thing doing his thing with the boxing, but you got to fight somebody that's legit.
Exactly. Malik?
Yeah, like I don't see him wanting that MMA drink. I know even like on the lead up to the fight, he was saying, they was talking about Ben Askren will forfeit his purse or something if he did any kind of MMA tactics in the fight or all other kind of stuff. So once again, but kind of like what was said before, like Mustafa was saying, you got to respect the sport on a certain level. Now, obviously, Ben Askren is a combat, fighter. He had a 19-2 record, like Michael was talking about. He won championships in several organizations. He actually came to the UFC because they did a swap with him and Demetrius Johnson when Demetrius Johnson kind of won it out. But, he had about like 3 fights in the UFC. He won his first one, then he lost to like Masvidal with the Tiger knee, like Michael was saying. Then he lost to Maya. Jake had the youth, he had some height, and he had a little bit of a reach advantage. And like Mustafa was saying too, they are athletic, and like the guy is a YouTuber, he got money, so he could train crazy. You know what I mean? Like, what else he got to do? He don't got nothing else to do. So he, once again, he's gotten better. You could see some progression over time, and I do think he is trying to take it somewhat serious. Obviously, looking at him, I ain't feel like you don't feel like I'm watching like Mayweather or Ryan Garcia or one of these kinds of guys, but he is athletic and he's training probably more than some other people. And I mean, he's showing it, but like Hollister was saying too, it was a little fishy to stoppage. It did seem a little early. Like, yeah, he did seem a little wobbled and like a little out of it, but the stoppage was a little like, I don't know. But I mean, look, Jake Paul, he added something to his highlight reel, and both guys they secured that bag. Like I think Ben Askren made like a half a mil, which
probably
is
a little bit more
around what
too.
he made from his purse in his 2 UFC fights or 2 or 3 UFC fights. So I mean, yeah, it is a little embarrassing for him, but he
Not a
got
little
paid.
one.
So I think he's all right. I think he was smiling after some other thing talking, so he's gonna be good. But I mean, look, if you're gonna step in there with Jake Paul, I know like now some other people trying to want to call him out and stuff. Just take it serious. Like, don't just sleep. And I mean, we'll see what he does. At the end of the day, I ain't hating on him. Like Michael was saying, he finding a way to get money and do something for himself and try to entertain people. And he definitely is somewhat of a showman. Like he fills that part. So we'll see if his skills can really catch up or if he takes it to another level. But either way, he probably got a niche going for him. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, another highlight for him.
Yeah, Tyrone.
I never even heard of the guy that you guys are talking about, this UFC guy, to be honest with you. So I sat there and said to myself, okay, it's a UFC fighter or MMA fighter, excuse me, because y'all said he didn't fight that much in UFC. I said, all right, now he's fighting a legit fighter. So I'm like, okay, this guy's probably going to beat the crap out of Jake Paul and blah, blah, blah. And then the bell rang. Now I listened to this podcast called Something to Wrestle With. Is a guy named Bruce Pritchard. He used to play Brother Love in WWF fans of wrestling back in the day, we know who that is and stuff. So he likes to use the term, "Oh, this guy he looks good. His body looks good. His music, his entrance, everything." And then the bell rang. So that's the term, basically, like, okay, and the bell rang and he sucked. So that's pretty much what I saw when the bell rang. This guy, his boxing form looked horrible. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, this don't look good. I don't even think I even got into the fight quick enough before this man knocked him out. And yes, it's true. Jake Paul has improved his technique and his skills, but let's not forget he fought Nate Robinson and a MMA fighter who has no boxing experience. I'm not giving him any respect until I actually see him fight a real boxer. This is just a money grab. He's a YouTube sensation. I guess he's been fighting guys on YouTube, but until he fights a professional fighter and wins, he's not getting my respect as a fighter. I don't care how many impressive knockouts he get and all this stuff. It really doesn't matter to me. I think it's a joke. Whoever bought this, I feel bad for them, but then again, I don't, because how could you be so stupid? It's not like he went in there and fought Rampage Jackson, like a big time UFC name. He just fought whoever this guy is.
Yeah.
You know? And then he's running talking about Conor McGregor. He need to stop that. He need to stop that, because I heard something about Conor. Conor may not be a boxer, but he knows how to fight. He knows how to punch in the MMA. So he has boxing technique. And he did go in there with Floyd Mayweather, although he never stood a chance. He still has experience fighting a real fighter who basically is the best fighter in this generation. So he needs to leave that alone, because he will get seriously hurt by Conor McGregor. And I think I don't give him any respect, to be honest with you. I don't, until you could say he could come up with a name to fight. Go fight Errol Spence. Go fight Terrence Crawford. Where you walk around here big and bad. Fight them guys, and then you come to me and talk to me about Jake Paul. But I don't give any props to this. I do commend him for stealing some money. I give him that, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, y'all all got great points. Like I said, the art, like Mustafa said earlier, like the art is like something you can't really mess with. Like, boxing is boxing, MMA is MMA. Now, like I said, I agree with Hollister too, with the fact that the fight I felt was a little bit kind of, rushed. Like, I missed the fight. It always happens. I'm streaming the fight, you know what I mean? The way I've streamed them, you know what I'm saying? And I'm watching the fight and it always cuts off, and then I have to scramble to get back my stream and my connection. And then when I get back on there, the fight is over and I see him crying. I thought, did he win? And I see him like Ben Askren looking all like, oh. So I'm like, all right, I know Ben Askren got rocked. They showed a replay, the man doing his thing, he powering up and explosions behind him and all this stuff like that. I thought I was at a concert. You know what I mean? And the one thing about Thriller that I look, man, I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to give boxing like a nice little pizzazz and having these kind of like one-off like celebrity fights. And I respect that. But I hate these 20-minute mini concerts they be doing in between fights. I cannot stand it. It makes me so angry. Like, I ain't paying to watch these cats singing. I didn't buy a concert.
Mike,
I want to watch the fights, man. I don't care about Snoop and smoking weed and all that stuff like that. And Steve Urkel playing like, well, Urkel, okay, Steve Urkel got weed now, so he talking about that. I don't care about none of that.
I heard you complain about this before in UFC. You don't like them doing the video packages, but it's a part of it, Mike. You can't just go right into the match.
The video package, right? Pause. Right, that is okay, because I look at it like this, right?
You don't have to pause that.
I know, but that's a case for the younger viewers, right? But my thing is that with that whole situation, right? That's like a hype tape. You're getting hyped to see the fight. I don't mind that. Sometimes it's a little bit annoying at the end of the, especially when it's late at night. I don't mind that. It's fine. I'll watch it. But I'm talking about every fight. There was a band that played like their whole album. You know what I'm saying? They got to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Doja Cat doing the thing. I don't want to see Ice Cube and all them performing. I don't care about that.
But the thing is, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to pay a pay-per. You don't want to pay for pay-per-view, and then the fight lasts that long. They got to give you something to drag to make it all right. At least it was a 3-hour event. Yeah, it was only a few minutes of fighting, but at least you got some entertainment with it. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, man, I'm good, son. I mean, I could see Ice Cube and I could go YouTube.
Oscar De La Hoya
yeah. Oscar, he talking about he want to fight now. He commenting, and then you got freaking like Mario Lopez, and then you got these other comedians in there. They interviewing cats back.
They got high,
and everybody getting high. Even one of the guys like, yeah, man, that's the first time I ever had a contact high. It's like, yo, man, like Bruce Buffer and Michael Buffer, all them. But look, man, at the end of the day, with the whole Jake Paul thing, like, look, man, like, I agree with you. He needs to fight a real person. Like, his fight's been handpicked. The first professional fight he fought was against another YouTuber who was boxing, and he watched him. They didn't really get hit. The second one, Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson, me and Mustafa was talking about it earlier, and he's athletic, but he's not a boxer. He didn't really spar. He didn't really get hit.
He's a basketball player, man.
I know, but I'm trying to say, like,
you know what Charles Barkley always say: basketball players can't fight.
Exactly. So he got rocked, right? Then you fight Ben Askren. Now, Ben Askren, look, who knows? It could have been like, residual effects of that tiger knee he took, right? And I read a comment somewhere, and somebody said, which is kind of true and funny, is like, look, man, after this knockout from that whole knockout by what's his face, by Jake Paul, that Masvidal knockout is meaningless now, because now it's like, yo, anybody can knock Ben out at this point. You know what I'm saying? So to me, Ben Askren was killing it. Yeah, he had hip surgery. He had a lot of different things, but he was just an unorthodox. He never really respected striking. And when he was in MMA, it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm awkward. I can grapple. I can do whatever. That's it. And he's a good. I give him credit for his personality, like not to take a lot of things personally. Just move on. He's like, all right, they're gonna make fun of me a little bit. He like trying to do the 8 Mile thing, like get in front of it before it gets big. But my thing is that now you got Jake Paul gassed. You know what I'm saying? Like, he honestly think he could fight with these dudes like a John Jones or like an Israel Adesanya or like I was telling Mustafa earlier, like, yo, you think you tough? Fight Ngannou. Fight Francis Ngannou now. You know what I'm saying? Fight him. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's see how you do against him boxing. You know what I'm saying? Some dudes are just nice at boxing and transition to MMA. Ben Askren was just a wrestler who learned enough to defend, to get around the strikes, to get that single leg or the double leg, get you to the ground and smother you and submit you. That's what his expertise. That was it. He was never like a guy who, like other wrestlers like Rashad Evans and John Jones and Daniel Cormier, who learned the hands and learn how to set up, their striking with their wrestling and had the wrestling in their back pocket. He was not like that. It was all wrestling or nothing. So to me, for him to act like he a world beater, like, he got to chill out. And now the MMA community needs to send somebody legit. And a lot of MMA guys are like, look, man, at this point, he needs somebody real. Like, we can't have this go out like that. Like, people know how much like Dana White didn't really like Ben Askren. And for Dana White to say, I'm going to bet $1 million that Ben Askren's going to win, and now he $1 million light. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's nothing to Dana White, but still, like, it's just crazy, man. It just sucks, man. It's like I said, now you think Lyle Logan gonna get gassed, think he could have a chance with Floyd. You know what I'm saying? And like, Floyd gonna wash him too. So it just like, look, I appreciate the fact that, look, they could go out there and they could use their YouTube skill set and develop money to get these fights and fight, but nah. The only cat I see who want to fight him now was that guy who yoked up that reggaeton artist. You know what I mean? Last night too on the same card. I think some like British billionaire who got mad money. He fought like some guy named Ray Khan, who was like a reggaeton artist, and he was washing him. And I was looking at the two, like the way he was throwing his punches and like throwing his head up and like doing this. But he lasts longer than Ben Askren, and he's not even a fighter. You know what I'm saying? So that's getting me tight, man. But whatever. Moving on. So we got, we want to press for time. Switching gears to basketball. Shout out to LaMarcus Aldridge, man. Like, he had to have a retirement. He had a irregular heartbeat, and he had a real scare, like a game that he had all his life, but it was like really bad. Like one of these games recently he played, he said he didn't like the way it felt, and the doctors were like, look, man, we did what we could back in the day when they had the little surgery for him to try to, like, help him. And there's a doctor on YouTube, I think I mentioned it before, who like kind of explained it, and he's like, you know what, it's not worth it. So I got my family to look forward to, take care of. I can't take this chance, and risk the chance of dying. So shout out to him, you know what I mean? And I hope he does well. But it's a common trend, and I'm gonna let Mustafa go. Then I'm gonna do Mustafa, Menelik, Hollister, and Tyrone. There's a trend going on. Like, a lot of these players now are getting hurt, and you've seen a lot more injuries now. And I just wanted to get you guys' opinion as to why you feel it's that way, Mustafa.
Yeah. So one thing I think is like, especially you see a lot of these, I think in general, players are getting hurt because they're just getting overplayed. As far as like, a player that could play like a bunch of like minutes, and they could like, they could be exhausted, and like in a day or two, like their muscles may feel good, but your ligaments actually don't recover as fast as your muscles do. So these guys are just going over and over and over, and then it's like, you see them get hurt. And as far as like for all the star players that's out right now, I think what's really happening is that those are the guys that go the hardest. They work the hardest. They play the hardest. and then you see them get hurt. Like the other day, we saw Jamal Murray get hurt. With an ACL injury. And then just recently, we saw Donovan Mitchell. I didn't really see exactly how he got hurt, but it's like an ankle sprain, I think. But he got hurt, and it's just you see like the Lakers games that just came on the other night. It was like the Lakers against the Jazz, and all four of the star players is not playing in that game. So it's just I think they're definitely getting played too much. And as far as the stars, it's like they go so hard, and that's why they out. So I mean, I don't know. I feel like something should be done, or maybe they should focus on that load management a little bit more. But it's kind of getting a little crazy. But yeah, that's pretty much all I really have to say about that.
Malik and Hollister.
Yeah, so I agree with what Mustafa was saying. I do think some of it is how hard everyone goes nowadays. Plus, I think there's more of an emphasis on being physically fit in a certain way. So I think some of these, like back in the day, there was players, they always worked out, they always did some stuff, but I think is even more of an emphasis on it. So a lot of people are going hard out in that sense and putting a certain amount of strain on themselves. But also too, I think we touched on this before, but there's a lot of specialization as far as how people train and what they're doing. Like back in the day, somebody might play baseball a little bit, they run, they do this, they do that, right? So their body was used to dealing with spreading out, I guess, a lot of the impact and a lot of the things and that functional aspect of the body moving and doing certain things was there and built up. Whereas nowadays, someone is like, all right, you play basketball, all right, you're going to do these many shots every day, this many dribbles, this, that, and the third. So it's very specialized. In addition to then doing like the bodybuilding or the weight training kind of aspect, in addition to the on court stuff that you have to do. And it is a compressed season. Like, yeah, they tried to balance it, but they had less time. Yeah, they took off a few games, but there are certain times where you're playing a little more frequently than they would have previously. And then there are the few teams that went deep in the bubble. So I think it's a combination of factors. And hopefully it's not going to be too much of a trend that keeps going. Because, yeah, right now, like, I mean, Mustafa talked about, Donovan Mitchell is out, right? LeBron out, AD out, KD just got hurt again for like the third time this season. It's like, and for the league, for the legacy, and just for us to be able to see real competitive seasons the way they should be. LaMelo hurt, Jamal Murray. Just is like a ton of people just hurt, and it just you don't get to really like. No knock on the Raptors, but they wouldn't have won that chip if KD didn't get hurt. So let's keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? So it's like injuries are part of the game. So yeah, but you just hate to see it. Klay Thompson with his second injury. It's just been a lot. So I just hope these doctors and these teams figure something out, or it gets better, because I hate to see diminished product on the floor. And then also these are these guys' lives and livelihoods and careers. So and I mean, once again, just respect to LaMarcus Aldridge. I know it's like the third time something like this happened, and I know he had two other surgeries, but like Michael was saying, he's older now. I mean, it would have been nice if he could have stuck around and, got that chip with Brooklyn, you know what I mean? But just so he could at least cap his career off with that. But it makes sense to take care of yourself and your body. And all it takes is a few, one game could really make a difference. Bosch was forced to retire for, blood clot, something different. But, you just never know. So I get where he's coming from, and much respect to him and his career.
Awesome.
Yeah, with the whole injuries thing, it's kind of weird because it's always like a lower leg, it's like a lower body injury. It's always like the ACL or the Achilles or something. It's like I don't understand like why is it always happening. It's like not wishing injuries on nobody, but it's like there's never no upper body injuries really like that anymore. I'm not sure. Maybe it could be a factor that they might not be working out it properly, doing like enough weightlifting. I'm not sure. And then also too, I think it was John Moran. He got hurt early in the year. He said he's not wearing no more low cut sneakers. He's only wearing high top sneakers. That might also help too with the ankle injuries a lot of these players are getting. because the sneakers are being developed, for more like safety and cushion and all of that. But they need to also probably switch over to the high tops. That might help too. But
Yeah, they gotta
with the
stop
whole
skipping leg day. But nah,
that could be it too. Because it's always like this ACL injuries, Achilles, is an ankle sprain, is something. I don't know what's going on. I feel like these physicians and the facilities for these teams are not doing something right. They might need to. I was hearing something the other day say they might need to contact like the MSL, because those players, they get a lot of leg injuries and they recover fast. So they might need to contact some of those people to see what they could do to help out these NBA players with these injuries. But hopefully it gets better. And LaMarcus Aldridge, he had a great career. He's 35 years old. Hopefully when Brooklyn wins the chip, they'll probably give him one, since he was a part of the team for a short time though. But hopefully he does that, and they do that. They give him one, and like also what Dame said the other day too, they should retire his number. I agree with that as well, because he was a big
100%.
part of that Portland team. Yep, and that's pretty much all I got on the injuries thing. I'm gonna pass it over to Tyrone now.
Tyrone.
With the injury stuff, I really don't have to come up with a lot to say because Menelik pretty much echoed about 75% of what I was going to say as far as the working out and the playing different sports, because that's what I was getting ready to get into. So when you're and it actually, I could get more deeper into it actually, instead of just saying what I said about Menelik saying it. It also it goes back to when they're young. Nowadays athletes are just sticking to one sport even at a young age. Back in the day, we played everything. Everything. You name it, we played it, except for golf and auto racing. But we played everything: basketball, baseball, football, volleyball, what's the other
Soccer.
one? Soccer. Like
Did
everything.
track.
Yeah.
You run track, you did everything at a young age. And then your body develops like,
Wrestling.
okay, this time of the year, you're using all your muscles, but not at all at one time, and putting wear and tear on specific muscles playing one sport only. So the athletes nowadays have gotten out of that. They've gotten out of that. And the AAU era now, with you know these kids are being promoted and sponsored at like 12, 13 years old. They don't want them playing other sports now. They want them sticking to the sport that they're supposed to be like stars in, like basketball. So it starts from there. Like they don't play multiple sports like they used to. Like a lot of people don't know, Allen Iverson was a football player. You know, like
Yeah.
other Michael Jordan played baseball. This one, Tim Duncan was a swimmer. So it's other sports that they played as they, and they were, look, Allen Iverson got beat up so much playing basketball, but if it was an NBA player now that did all the stuff Allen Iverson did, they'd be out. They'd be playing half the season. Allen Iverson would play and play through everything. Mike, we don't have to bring up Mike. Tim Duncan also, he had a couple of years where he had a couple of surgeries but other than that, Tim Duncan was pretty durable. There
John
was other
Garnett.
NBA players. John Stockton was durable. Karl Malone was durable. Stuff, people like that. So the athlete nowadays, and Mike, you threw me off with that Garnett stuff. Just God, dude, I don't have to bring up his name. But these athletes nowadays, they just stick to one sport now, and it's like they're scared to play another sport because they may be afraid to get hurt. Or they may get hurt playing that other sport. Maybe it's in their contract, but it really starts from when they're young, and that's my thing. It's like your body is now used to playing just one sport, and there's a lot of wear and tear. Now, to go into the weightlifting that Menelik said, I think these players are too cut up. That makes your muscles tighter, and that can cause a lot of injury. And Menelik also said a lot of these guys, they probably miss leg day. That's why you probably seen all these torn this and torn that. I haven't seen so many. I never seen these kind of injuries in the 90s. I know people might want to, oh God, here they go with the 90s again, but it's the truth. It's the God honest truth. How many torn ACLs did you hear about in the 90s? Not that many. It's every year you're hearing about 15, 20 different torn ACL injuries every year nowadays. And that's why I get a kick out of people that try to bring up, oh, this era would be better than that era. because they're bigger, stronger, faster. Yeah, but they're also fragile. They're more fragile here. They're like papers here.
Yeah.
They're like pieces of paper. Now, ankle injuries like LeBron and Donovan Mitchell, they got their ankle rolled up. That can happen to anybody. We've all had that. So I can't, bring up, the ankle injuries. And Menelik was bringing up the compressed season and stuff. Yeah, it is. But there are teams that also didn't play for 8 and 9 months. So the Lakers and the Miami Heat were the only two teams that suffered that much. And I was reading something on Bleacher Report, and when Mitchell got hurt, and a guy was like, "Oh, F Adam Silver," and I was saying to myself, it was an ankle. He rolled his ankle. What does Adam Silver have to do with that? Because there's a short season. A short season doesn't mean you can't get an ankle injury.
Exactly.
So people blame the short season. I think it's BS. Jamal Murray, it was a non-contact injury. Remember also, he was out a few games for the other knee. And you know what they always say? Sometimes to take pressure off of one body part, you might put more pressure on another body part. So who knows how long that knee injury was hurting him from the other knee that was hurting him. He might have put too much pressure on the opposite knee, and because that's the one he tore, the opposite knee. So people gotta understand, things like that also come into play. But I think it's a lot more with these athletes not. I think they're too much weightlifting. They're probably not stretching. I used to watch players stretch all the time on the court pregame. They would show players pregame. Nowadays, they're either dancing, they're practicing their dance moves, they're shooting around. Before, you used to see players just sitting there stretching. There's little things I see, and I notice that I don't see anymore. Like, they won't show a player stretching. I mean, they probably do, but I don't see it as much as you used to see it. So, things like that, and you got too much weightlifting. You don't need to be that cut up. Sometimes you don't. And see, everybody looking for that chiseled body. Those are the ones that get hurt a lot. So between that and them not playing different sports at a young age, all to me leads up to it. So I'm pretty much echoing a lot of stuff Menelik said.
Yeah, because you're right. I mean, Menelik had hit some of that same thing, and I was going to reference that as well because I know they were doing some type of research, and it was like some validity to that. But I look at it like this, man. I think there's different ways of training. Like when we watch The Last Dance, and I know a lot of times we reference The Last Dance in this podcast, they were saying that when Michael Jordan had to play baseball, that there was certain kind of exercise he had to do to be optimal for baseball. And I feel that most of these strength and conditioning coaches that's on these teams, they are working these guys out for dynamic, like quick, fast, explosive movements. They're not really working the body for muscle endurance and not really working the body for just overall, strength in a full body per se. They want you to be quick. You're doing 1,000 drills, like dribble drills and dribble pull up, all that stuff like that. You're working on that. You're doing sled pulls and freaking squats and all that stuff like that, which is only for strength and like maybe jumping and some explosion. But those are only a certain part of the muscle group. Then you have the other muscles that's around there and it cause problems. And Tom said it also. We already know that's based on history is like when you work on your body and our body compensate, when your leg hurt, you limp and you lean a certain kind of way. You lean to favor the better leg because you want to take the pain off the bad leg. But what happens is you put pressure on the good leg, and it causes those things to happen. But for the ankle sprains, you can't. That's what freak accidents, man. You can't really do nothing about that. People rolling your ankle. Sometimes you jumping around and bodies collide. You step on somebody's foot. Like what happened to KD today, he got a knee to a thigh. Like those things you can't really control. Those are freak accidents. But hamstring pulls, Achilles, ACLs, those are things that I feel that it's just overuse. It's just like a ticking time bomb. Like these guys, eventually, you make the wrong move when your muscles just happen to be at a certain tenseness at that time. We all had it. Sometimes you might walk and something feel extra tight. Like, yo, why does it feel like this tight? Like something like cramp up on you real quick. And those things kind of cause problems. So yeah, to me, I just feel that, and honestly, nutrition too, like, let's be honest, these cats get the lead, they get better nutrition and the food they were eating a little bit better. But you look at people back in the day, they ate, way different than how we eat now. They might not have eaten as much junk food or these processed foods that will cause certain things in the body. So yeah, they might be faster, bigger, stronger, but like Tyron said, a little bit more fragile. But back then, Hakeem and them, you wasn't really hearing them getting hurt like that. You wasn't really hearing these guys getting like these really catastrophic injuries because they, their bodies were built to handle those things. What I'm saying? Even if they didn't play a multiple sports, they were able to handle it. And now these guys doing these 1,000,000 drills and dribble, and sled pulls and freaking box jumps and deadlifts and all this other stuff like that their body does not get the chance to rest. They're not getting proper nutrition, not getting proper rest. They're always playing the way they taping them up. You know, some people are against tape, some people want tape. Then they, like Hollister said earlier with the sneakers, like they have these sneakers, like they have like the Kobe's, and they have a little fin on it, like, oh, that's supposed to help prevent ankle rolls. And now you still rolling your ankle, man. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, my thing is that you want to give people the opportunity to be able to, you know, be at the best they can be, but in a safe environment. And some of these trainers are bad. Look what happened in Portland back in the day. They messed up Brandon Roy's career. They messed up Greg Oden's career. They messed up a lot of people's career because you have the wrong people doing their thing, mess them up. Even Anthony Davis, to a certain degree, at the beginning of his career, got hurt. Because why? They had the owner who owned the Pelicans also owned the Saints, and he had the football trainers training the basketball players, and they were doing the football player drills, and Cat was getting leg injuries and back injuries because he lifting heavy doing these things. You ain't tackling nobody, right? You damn near 7 foot. You need to have finesse and jump shots. So I say all that to say that, but I don't want to say it's because of the games, and I don't even talk about the schedule, because these players have more combinations now than they ever did back in the day when these guys were getting on freaking charter planes and having to go to TSA to get on a plane, and dudes now get their own private jet, you know what I mean, that the company that the team owns, and they get to fly that jet to the games and all that stuff like that. I don't want to hear none of that, but I do hope that these players get healthy. I do hope that, you know, some of these free accidents, you know, kind of like, you know, subside. And to Melik's point, man, you want kind of like some type of parity. You want to watch the games. Like, really and truly, the NBA is losing a lot of, you know, what you will call it, ratings, because a lot of people don't really care about the regular season. They're just waiting for the playoffs. They don't care about it. Like, a lot of people say, I don't really care to watch these games. Like, I'm not interested. And now they're just like, all right, this is going to be the Brooklyn Nets and the Lakers. There's no, like, you know, back in the 90s, it's like you already know it's going to be the Bulls because Mike, but at least you had some type of excitement leading up to it. Now it's like, nah, you know, we don't know. So we already know who it is, like when they had Golden State in all them years and other teams. So there's nothing now. But
yeah, I just wanted to like say, I do kind of like, I definitely agree with Tom was saying, they should be stretching more. I think that's a big part because, yeah, like with as far as the muscles and stuff like that, like just getting so jacked and diesel, it's you putting more strain on the ligaments. And like I was saying before, like ligaments, they recover slower than like muscles do. And the stronger the muscle get, and if you ain't stretching that ligament, you can't really do like a ligament exercise. So your ligament's not gonna get that much stronger. Your muscles will. And then, you know, and that's why I think that's definitely a big part of it too. So it's like with them running around and doing all this extra explosive stuff, they that much stronger. It's like them ligaments. That's why you see, like, if you look at like a medical illustration, like an ACL is such this tiny little piece of thing, right? So it's like, of course, it's going to rip if you got extra muscle and extra strength pushing against it. But yeah, like we already talked about it and stuff. But yeah, hopefully they do get better, and figure something out. But yeah, that's all.
No, man,
I definitely think that. I just want to. I agree with the stretching for sure. Yeah. They need to be stretching or something.
Yeah, that is 100% true. Like y'all know me. I'm mad stiff as it is, and I'm working out, but I'm just like mad, so I don't have no flexibility. And that's where it gets dangerous. You want to try to stretch, especially as you get older. Stretch and do those type of things, and you know, take care of your body. You know what I mean, inside and out. But yeah, I want to thank Mustafa for finally being able to make it. Hopefully, we can make this a regular occurrence with us, and he'll give his 2 cents in to these things.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Thank Menlake, Hollister, Tyrone for coming out. Thank you guys again for listening and watching the podcast. Like I said, we try to grow the platform. But go ahead, Menlake. You have something to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know we might talk about sports. I was just going to say RIP to DMX and Black Rob.
Oh, my God. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, rest in peace, man.
Yeah, I was still like hurt from the DMX thing. So when it happened, I didn't really want to talk about it because that really hurt me because he was one of my favorites growing up. So his own really, really hurt me. It still does, but initially those first couple of days, I didn't even want to. I couldn't even listen to his music. So that really hurt. But then the news about Black Rob yesterday. That was shout out to of course, rest in peace to DMX, but definitely rest in peace to Black Rob. You know, he even had the strength to give a shout a tribute out to DMX while he on his hospital bed. So
yeah,
you know, it just shows the kind of heart he had even in his worst times.
True,
So
man.
rest in peace to both of them, man.
Yes, R.I.P.
Rest
to
in peace,
both of them.
DMX. Rest in peace, Black Rob. And also want to give Jay-Z and Beyonce some credit because they bought DMX Masters and they're going to give it to his 17 kids for
Children,
free.
yeah.
But I appreciate that. I really do like that. Said and DMX was a lot of people don't understand what he used to do and how generous he was, and like a legend. Like Tyron said, he was one of my favorites as well. You know what I mean? Like I had all his albums. You know what I'm saying? Like as Dark as Hell is still my favorite, but it's just like, yo, man, like he is like was that dude. You know what I mean? And Black Rob, like the Tyron said, for him to be able to, on his hospital bed, very sick, saying what he said is very, you know, deep and passionate as well. And I had a person in the group that I was in on Facebook, and he was like, yo, man, like I seen him a couple of times in person. It's like he always just try to hide, not let nobody see, because he didn't want nobody to see that he fell off. And it's like, it's sad. These are young artists, and you see how the industry sometimes spits them out, and addiction and different things like that, and Diddy. But we won't get into that. But, you know, like I said, RIP to DMX, RIP to Black Rob, and, you know, RIP to everybody who lost, you know, who has passed and left us. But I want to thank you guys again for listening to the podcast. I want to thank you guys again for joining us. I want to thank Mustafa, Menelik, Hollister, and Tyrone for joining us. And, you know, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to grow the platform. Let us know other topics you would like for us to talk about. And please enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your family. Be well and be blessed. God bless.